Everyone is pretty hyped up about the FIFA World Cup 2022. And fans are having quite an adrenaline rush watching every game. While Qatar is gathering applause for their grand FIFA arrangements, the market is not short on controversies and comments.
Yeah, it's been very disappointing for people who live here because it's not being portrayed accurately or fairly in my view.
The decision to award Qatar hosting rights for the 2022 World Cup has been marred by controversy, including allegations of corruption and human rights violations since it was first announced 12 years ago.
It brings a bigger question. It's what comes first, is it development or human rights? In this case, we've given them development, we've let them host the World Cup. Now they need to show that development can help human rights, not that human rights need to come before development.
All this for a World Cup? Well, firstly, not just any World Cup, it's the FIFA World Cup. And secondly, yes, all this for the FIFA. Want to know the whats and whys of the issue? We are here to help with that. In this video, we will discuss the Qatar FIFA controversy. Let's start with a brief history. FIFA awarded the tournament to the Middle Eastern country Qatar in 2010 with the understanding that it would be held during the summer where temperatures exceed 40 degrees Celsius.
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
In 2015, FIFA recommended that Qatar host a shorter World Cup over the cooler months of November and December. So, where do the controversies begin? Ken Bensinger of the New York Times, the author of The Red Card, How the US Blew the Whistle on the World's Biggest Sports Scandal, says that Qatar was selected in 2010. At the time, it was a real head-scratcher as to why they would pick Qatar. FIFA's own technical committee rated it worst of all bids. In the years since then, we've learned a lot about how they got the votes of the key FIFA executives. It seems like a combination of influence peddling, soft and hard power, and even potentially some bribes being paid out to influential voters. A good example of this would be that Qatar's influence was seen in France with the French representatives to FIFA. A former player named Michel Platini, one of the greatest of all time players who was very influential in FIFA, and it came out later that he was summoned by the then France President Sarkozy.
Because my president asked me, he has not said obliged me, but he asked me that we should consider candidature of Qatar because they made a big deal together with French industries and Qatari industries, whatever.
This was only few weeks before the critical vote, and Platini walked into a dining room to find the President of France and the Emir of Qatar sitting there. And they had negotiated a deal with not only for Qatar to buy airlines from Airbus, but also to buy Sarkozy's favorite soccer team and also to buy the rights to France's soccer leagues on television in France. So Qatar had basically injected a ton of money into France, and the President of France made it very clear to Platini where he should be voting. But is that it to the controversies? Sadly, no. There are many more issues attached to Qatar being a questionable choice for hosting FIFA. Some of these include one of the issues being questionable welfare of migrant workers. Qatar has faced intense criticism from human rights groups over its treatment of migrant workers, who with other foreigners compile the bulk of the country's population. A 48-page report by Amnesty Reality Check 2021 said that practices such as withholding salaries and charging workers to change jobs was still rife despite labor reforms in 2014. The government of Qatar said its labor system was still a work in progress, but denied allegations in the report that thousands of migrant workers in the 2022 World Cup host nation were being trapped and exploited. Qatar is a country that for many years used a system that many human rights groups deem exploited labor, and in some cases kept people's passports so they couldn't leave the country and paid people wages that were substandard for the kind of work they were doing.
A worker have no choice, no rights, no choice. If I'm making complaint against company, they just say go back, pack your clothes and go back.
Some reports have indicated that hundreds, if not thousands of workers died in the process of building the stadiums and other infrastructures for the Cup. Amnesty and other rights groups have led calls for FIFA to compensate migrant workers in Qatar for human rights abuses by setting aside 440 million, matching the World Cup prize money.
It's very hard to give an exact figure. I would suspect it's actually in the hundreds have died to make this World Cup possible.
The next issue being Qatar's stance on LGBTQ+ and women's rights. Homosexuality is illegal in the conservative Muslim country, and some soccer players have raised concerns for fans traveling to the event, especially lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals, along with women, whose rights groups say that Qatari law discriminates against them. However, World Cup organizers have repeatedly said that everyone, no matter their sexual orientation or background, is welcome during the tournament. The promise stands haphazard as less than 2 weeks before the finals, Khalid Salman, a Qatari World Cup ambassador, told German broadcaster ZDF that homosexuality was damage in the mind.
But do you think gay is haram?
It's haram. Because why is haram? I am not one big Muslim, but it's haram. Why? Because it's damage in the mind.
He added that the country expects more than 1 million visitors for the World Cup, and anyone coming to Qatar for the tournament should accept their laws. The Australian soccer team has spoken out against Qatar's record on human rights and same-sex relationship, while Denmark's players will travel to the tournament without their families as a protest against the country's human rights record.
It was so definite, what was said, and so deeply offensive, and I don't think it could be taken any other way, so we're quite clear on how they feel about LGBTQ+ people.
The next issue in light is Qatar's control on alcohol. The Qatar World Cup is the first to be held in a Muslim country with strict controls on alcohol, presenting challenges for the organizers of an event sponsored by a beer brand and often associated with beer drinking fans. The country said it would let ticketed fans buy beer at matches starting 3 hours before kickoff and 1 hour after the final whistle, but not during the match. Plans were made to have areas for drunk fans to sober up, with tournament chief Al Khater saying that the move was made to make sure the fans were safe and not harmful to others or themselves. But FIFA said on November 18th that alcoholic beer would not be sold at stadiums, a last-minute reversal that raised questions among some supporters about Qatar's ability to deliver on promises made to the fans. And what does Qatar say about all of these controversies and allegations? Well, Qatar has denied most of the charges and issues and has said that it is a victim of racism and persecution against them by countries in the West that do not want a tournament to be held in a predominantly Arab country in a different region of the world. Qatar 2022 CEO Nasser Al Khater told reporters that Qatar has been unfairly treated and scrutinized for a number of years.
I believe that Qatar A has been judged by the court of perception very early on. It started off with the size, it started off with the weather, then there was the issues of corruption, then there was the issues of workers' welfare. I'm not saying that some things are fair and some things we recognize and some things we believe that were challenges that we needed to do something about.
Generally, Qatar has been stubborn in accepting any of the accusations, even in the face of things like Justice Department accusations. For now, FIFA has become what you might call a wholly paid subsidiary of Qatar. However, there is much more to the picture before we blame the country for accusations framed predominantly by the West. So let's see how the season goes before making assumptions about the controversies in light. And by the time you wait for the next goal, how about helping our channel score more subscribers and support? If you are new here, subscribe to our channel and be a part of our World of Vokes community. Like our videos and comment down your views. And until we meet next, stay curious, stay awesome. World of Vokes signing off.